So I grew up watching Florida play in football, basketball, any sport. My parents both went there. It was really big for me. So of course, the game I had to tune into for this project was the Florida State game. One of the biggest rivalry games in college football. Like definitely no matter who you're cheering for, it is one of the biggest ones. So this year was different because it was Florida's head coach Napier, probably gonna say his name wrong. It was his first year as the head coach for Florida, so a lot of tensions were high. Florida's been having a bad season. Florida State's going into it ranked, so this is a big game. It was on ESPN, so it was pretty much somewhere that a lot of people were gonna be able to watch too. I ended up watching it on the ESPN app, so that was easy. I just had my Roku, and it was an easy way to watch it. So to start off, I noticed that the rivalry with the student sections were very, very strong. Each student section has their own way of performing if their team is doing well, whether it's a tomahawk chop or the gator jump. So they both have their own way. So I thought that was interesting. And encompassing that, they had a TV advertisement for Taco Bell. Taco Bell does this for every team where they do the Live Más student section. So this is one of the common advertisements I saw where it was through the television broadcaster. So ESPN had a little graphic on the bottom that said Live Más student section award, whatever, or possibility Florida State Seminoles, the student section, blah, blah, blah. So it was one of them I saw. That was really big. I saw a few others too that were throughout the show that the broadcasting company used, like ESPN. So one of those that was used throughout because it was Friday Night Football, Capital One was a big sponsor of this. Anytime they were coming back from commercial break, Capital One. On the bottom, Capital One. Capital One was everywhere. I think they just made this a priority to make sure their name was on that screen, and they were the main contributor and sponsor for Friday Night Football. So that was a big deal. Another one that I saw as well, I saw Chick-fil-A. They had Chick-fil-A commercials and they had Chick-fil-A advertisements going into halftime. That was another big thing. I thought they had a wide variety of the television sponsors. The other ones they had were, so it was Capital One, Nissan was another one, Chick-fil-A, AT&T, Aflac, Taco Bell, and Allstate. So I'm surprised they actually had two different food companies and two insurance companies, because I thought maybe they would try to focus in one route with that. So they had Aflac and Allstate for the two insurance companies, and then they had Chick-fil-A and Taco Bell. Um, but I guess they're a little bit different. I am more surprised, I think, about how there's double, because working with Wasserman too and on the AT&T vertical, I they always tell me to look away from any person they're interested in sponsoring if they have someone in a competing category already sponsoring them. Like with AT&T, if someone that I'm trying to look for as a streamer is already sponsored by Verizon, get away from that. Like, don't go that route. So I kind of look at it in the same aspect with this. So I'm surprised there's so many others. Those are the big ones that I saw though. AT&T, they also did in between drives. They did other top games that was titled AT&T Race to the College Football Championship Playoffs, and AT&T was a big sponsor for this, so they made sure that their name was kind of over the top. But overall, the television sponsors were a lot less than I thought they would be. The only one that I saw consistently was Capital One. Capital One I saw all the time. Everything else, they had like one appearance. Whether it was Taco Bell, they showed the student section like one time. Chick-fil-A, they showed one time. Allstate, Nissan, they showed all of those just like one time. So I didn't see a lot of those. But that was the first type of marketing that I saw. The other one was really big, was at the actual. Oh, and the Chick-fil-A one was Impact Players. I forgot to mention that. The Chick-fil-A sponsorship was Impact Players. So whenever, at the beginning of the game, when the players first came onto the field, they would show for both teams, whether it was, this time it was Florida was defense and Florida State was offense. They showed both their good players. So they had a linebacker for Florida, and they had, I think, a running back for FSU, just showing off who's really good on the team, who's made an impact this year, which is good because I feel like that's a good thing to show with Chick-fil-A especially. And the different sponsorships they had actually at the venue. So they had a few digital signs that would change the sponsorship, and they also had stuff that was ingrained into the brick. So Truist was ingrained into the brick, as well as Rocket Mortgage was also. They were behind the end zone, permanently behind or in the brick. Above the tunnel behind the end zone was Geico. That was also a sign that was changing, but for the most part, it showed Geico from what I could tell whenever that was a shot that was shown. Behind the benches, they had more digital signs, and those were local sponsors for the most part. They ended up showing ViStar Credit Union, which I had never heard of before. They also showed Fresh from Florida, which is obviously a Florida company, so that one was more of a local based company, and then DeWalt and Muscle Milk and Oyster City. Sorry, there was a bunch of them that they showed, as I could hint. I'm assuming some of those are probably more local. Obviously, DeWalt and Muscle Milk aren't as local as some of these other ones, but I thought it was nice to go through and change what was on those signs. It gives, at least me as a viewer, I'm seeing a different advertisement through as I'm watching. I wish that they had a way to put a different. They didn't have any sponsorships or advertisements on the field, on the actual field itself. I would have loved to see something like that. I would have loved to see some sort of change for the viewer, that they could see a different advertisement than what people in the stadium are seeing, because I don't know what half of these sponsors are. So by seeing these, I don't really care to look into it. I'm not from Florida. I don't live in Florida, so it's like it doesn't do me any good. So something like that maybe would have been nice to see. The other thing, this isn't really necessarily putting their name out there as on a big sign, but Gatorade is also a big sponsor of both of these teams. On the sidelines, you can see their logo big with the big orange containers containing all of the Gatorade that they're drinking. So that was a big thing for me too. It was more just because, I mean, I know all the athletes pretty much drink Gatorade to stay hydrated. That's a big thing, and it was created in Florida at UF, so I know it's a big thing to promote that as well. But those were the big things that I feel like I saw, whether it was marketing tactics at the actual field or on television. There wasn't a lot with television. It was pretty much just Capital One. But on the field, I did see a wide variety. I just hope next time, especially with the large broadcast game, they would look to reaching more of a national audience with the sponsorships they choose to use at the stadium.